Hello everybody, my name is Dello, and welcome to another lesson in my Minecraft teaching course. For this episode, I will be teaching you the basics of Redstone and how to implement it into circuitry and making traps out of it. And also some other useful stuff as we go along. It's going to be quite a long episode, so get yourself a drink. To people that just want to know how to make traps, I will be placing an annotation right about now, and that will link to where I start making stuff. But the first 10-15 minutes will be showing you how redstone works, because it's not the simplest thing in the world, and I believe you need a strong concept of the basics before you can do any of the good stuff. You can't just rush in, because it won't work. So, this is an advanced tutorial. I won't be going over how you make any of the blocks I use, or the levers, or anything like that. I won't tell you where to find redstone, or anything like that. You should know where to get it, and if you're watching this, you should already have quite a lot. But that's pretty much it. We should get started. So, redstone essentially works like electricity, or well, it's essentially logic, because it has lots of logic gates in it, and I'll get into them. But a good example of what it is like is if anyone has played Gary's mod and use the mod for that called wire mod, where you can have inputs to different things and produce an output. Is essentially that. So let's demonstrate it. This is redstone dust going down. As you can see, it's a black colour, which means it has no power going to it at all. And you'll notice the difference when it does have power to it. You have a variety of tools to provide power to your redstone circuit, and the first one you'll come across, and probably the most widely used, is this, which is the redstone torch. There it is. This will look different depending on what texture pack you've got installed, but it will always be a red version of the standard torch. And you place them exactly like torches, so you can place them on top of blocks, and you can also place them on the side of blocks, and placing them on the side of blocks is very useful, as you'll see as we go through. But the redstone torch essentially provides a constant stream of power to the circuit it is connected to. So if I put one here, you can see it's smoking and bright red, means that there's power on it. The only way you can turn it off is by using an inverter, and we will get into them later. But you go away. You essentially connect this redstone torch to your circuit, and you'll see that this is now all red, and it's gradually fading. But I'll get into why that is soon. So the redstone torch, as I said, is a constant input. But most of the time you want to control the input to your circuit, and the most reliable and effective way of that is by using a lever. And the lever provides an on or off signal. So think of it as just like a power switch for any sort of electrical appliance or gadget. And at the moment, you can see it's turned off. No power going into the circuit. But if you flick it on, the power goes on, and it will stay on until it's flicked off again. Like that. On, off. Now, redstone reacts a bit weird when it's used with blocks, because it powers the blocks. Essentially, it powers the blocks. So, a good way to demonstrate this, the redstone wire is on here. And if I power it on, let's use this bit. This block is now powered because the redstone wire is powered and it's on top of the block. But this one isn't. At all. It's pretty much the simplest way. But redstone reacts with blocks as well. So if I power this block, remember the redstone torch is always on. It won't power this way. But if I do this, wait for the frames per second to start out. Wrong side. If I do that, it is now powering. Because this is essentially powering this. But you'll see that demonstrated soon. Now, you also have a button. And this must be placed on a wall. Like that. And this provides a on signal for around 2 seconds. So if you watch, and you click it, power goes on, then it goes off. That's essentially what the button is. And I believe you can also do this. Yes, you can. You can also do that with the lever. Lever can be placed on any surface, can be placed on the right, the sides of the block, or anywhere like that. Now, the last input is the pressure plate. And this is this. You also have a stone version of it. So there's a cave around here. So, the pressure plate essentially is a button, but obviously it will only work when something walks over it. So, if I walk over it, power goes on. For as long as something is on it, the power will stay on for a maximum of 2 seconds until someone gets off it. So you can stand on this forever and the power will be on forever. If you stand off it, it will go off. But if you just run over it, the power will stay on for about 2 seconds. You can also activate this with blocks. If I can get it right. There we go. Only certain blocks work, from what I can tell. And that is essentially how redstone is powered. But you may have noticed that this bit is powered, but the bit over there isn't. It's still black. And that is because redstone only has a range of 15 blocks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and the 16th block is off. Now, there is a way to stop this happening. And I'm going to go through both ways, because there is now 2 ways. And the older way was to use a NOT gate or an inverter. So, what that essentially means, to the people that don't understand logic gates, a NOT gate means that if the input is off, the output is on. So if the input is on, the output is off. So a NOT gate is essentially made like this. You have a block, and on the opposite side of where the power is coming in, you need a redstone torch, like so. And as you can see, the power's coming in, and here it is off because the redstone torch is off. Now, you may be wondering, how does this make the circuit longer? Well, as I said, the NOT gate works if the power is off coming into the NOT gate, the power is on the other side. So, to make your circuits longer, you need a series of 2 inverters, or 2 NOT gates. As you can see, power's coming in, it's turning this one off, so there is no power coming into this one, so the power is on. And essentially, this makes your circuit even longer. So instead of stopping here, it now stops here. But there is a different way, and a much easier way of doing this. Because that is a bit cumbersome, and if you don't have very much room, it can be very annoying. So we now have these things which are called redstone repeaters. And they look like this, or essentially they look like that. They have a variety of uses. They are repeaters, and they also are delayers to people who know what circuitry is used for. I know that made no sense, but bear with me. So repeaters essentially do the inverter's job, all compacted into one little square. And to use one, you just place it like that. Oh, wrong one. There we go. Then as soon as the power goes off again, we'll put one here, and it goes around again. Right to the end. Now, you have to be careful of how you place a repeater, because if you place it like this, it won't work. If you place it like this, it won't work. You have to place it from the direction the signal will be coming. So the signal is coming from this way, all the way around here, so you place it from this way, and it will turn on. Now, I also said these work as delayers as well. And let's get rid of this circuit, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. It's quite self-explanatory what I mean. Essentially, it will delay the signal to the output. So, if I just make a little circuit like this, and put a couple of repeaters like this, and then put it back down here so we can see the output. Now, these torches, the one on the right, or my right as I'm looking at it, the one within the little triangle, sorry, moves if you right click it, like that. And you have 4 selections. 1, 2, 3, 4. And these are essentially the delay of the delayer switch. So, putting it on the first one makes it pretty much instantaneous. Second is a bit slower, third a bit slower still, and fourth is the slowest. So if you've got a series of these, all at the 4, it will take a very long time relative to putting power in to get output. So I'll show you what I mean by that. So I'm putting power in this side, watch the left, and you can see how long it took. But this also allows you to store energy in a way, a bit like a capacitor can work. Again, to people who know electronics, it can work a bit like a capacitor if you've got a lot of these. And the capacitor works by storing energy up. So if I get rid of this input, the power stays on at the output for a bit. Input's on. And there you go. So if you know what you're doing, you can use them very effectively. And I think we can go on to the other 2 gates that you may need. There are lots of gates in this circuitry. The 2 I will be going over now is the AND or the OR gate. I've already gone over the NOT gate, which is the inverter. But you may not use these, and you may use these. But, yeah, I'm going to tell you anyway. The OR gate works by... Essentially, you can have 3 inputs to it. You can have more. And as long as one of those inputs is on, the output is on. And there are 2 ways you can do this. Depends on how simply you want to do it. This is the most simple way. Where's my levers gone? There. So I have these 3 inputs. This is my output. If I put one of these inputs on, the output is on. It don't matter which one is on. If all 3 of them are on, it still goes on. This is the compact version. And the uncompact version is done like this. These are your inputs. I'll just get rid of this because it's going to get in the way. So we have one input here, we have another input here, and we have a third input here. We then need a block with a redstone torch on top of it. We need another block next to that with some redstone wire on top of it, with a redstone torch like so. So this is the output. We can then just put the input on, and the output is turned on. Output is on. Output is on. So that's the OR gate. The final gate I'm going to be going over is the AND gate. And the AND gate is quite obvious as to how to use it. It means that the output will be on only if input 1 and 2 are on. So the best way to explain that is to show you. So this is another one which is easy to make. You've got a number of ways to do it, but essentially they are a bit complicated, so I'll do the simple one because it's easier. We have two inputs like this. We have a row of 3 blocks like this, a redstone torch on one block and a redstone torch on the other, being connected by some redstone wire. We then have a redstone torch here with the output coming this way. Now if you've been paying attention, you will understand how this works. Now if I put an input here, the output is off. But if I put one here, the output is on. Now this works by putting input into this, which will turn this redstone torch off, but it will only allow power if both inputs are off because of the opposite redstone torch. And that's pretty much it for the boring stuff. We can now get onto some of the more interesting stuff and the practical stuff. And before that, I'm just going to take a little break because my mouth is getting dry and I'll probably start coughing everywhere. So I'll be back momentarily. Okay, so I'm back, and from this moment on we are going to be talking about the more useful uses of redstone. And essentially that means making traps with it. And you can make a lot of traps and a lot of imaginative traps with it. And I'm going to be showing you quite a few of them. But essentially they can be combined, you can think of other ways, as long as you've got a basic grasp of redstone. So let's get rid of this. We don't really need this. Or do we? Actually, yeah. I'm going to quickly show you probably the most practical use of redstone. And that is to power these, which are iron doors. Because iron doors cannot be opened by traditional means. By that I mean you cannot right click it and it will open. You can open it in a couple of ways. If you have a pressure plate, the door will open and you can merrily walk through it. You can use a button and you click it and you can walk through it. And you can also use a lever and you can open it. Obviously you can connect this to a puzzle sort of arrangement. So if you have a redstone circuit over here, and imagine this is a wall, you have a question somewhere, and you've got a selection of levers, and only one lever activates the circuit. I have something like this on my private server, and on the server you need to answer a riddle, and I kind of make it deliberately hard. And if you answer it correctly, you can go through the door and enter the area. But if you answer it wrong, then you die. I won't be showing you that, but I will be showing you them individually. If that makes sense. I think it makes sense. So essentially you've got question and you have 3 answers, only one answer is the correct answer. And this is that answer. So person comes in, answers question right, door opens. Essentially that's how you can use it to power doors even. And you can hide this circuitry relatively easily. Just do that. Or something like that. The aesthetics is completely up to you. I'm not here to teach a interior design, or in this case an exterior design course. I'm teaching you how to use Redstone. So let's clear this up and get rid of this door. Now, what this is a dispenser. Dispensers dispense stuff. Surprisingly. They can just simply throw objects out. So if I put wool in there, wool comes out. They can be used to fire stuff out, which is the most useful way of using a dispenser. So let's get some eggs. Usually you'd use this with arrows. I stick some eggs in there. There goes the egg. And there you go. That's pretty much how it shoots stuff. So if I was to put some arrows in there, it will shoot the arrows. And this is essentially the trap part of it. But obviously you won't have someone just standing there flipping a lever. Because I don't think anyone, I can't remember how to hear myself, I don't think anyone is that stupid, except for me, obviously. But what you want it to do, essentially, is for someone to walk in and get shot. Now, if you've been listening, you'll know how to do that. And that is by using a pressure plate placed in the right place. There we go. So, someone walks in, and they step on pressure plate, and they get shot. But the problem with this is... meh. Fine. Problem with this is that you only get one shot out of it. And like that. Unless the person is stupid enough to walk back out and hit the pressure plate again, you're only going to get one shot. And that doesn't kill anyone easily. But there is a way you can combat this, and that is by using what we call a clock. And a clock essentially repeats the signal over and over. And I'll show you exactly what I mean if I can remember how to do it. I need my repeaters. Do. And if you're paying attention, you'll see it repeating itself. This will go on forever, but if you was listening, you'll notice that little hiss that went off. Like that. And that is essentially a defense mechanism put into Minecraft, so the game doesn't crash every time you make one of these. Essentially, there is too much signal going into the circuit, and the way you can just stop that is just by altering the delay on the repeater. This will happily go forever, and if you connect this to the dispenser, it will fire. I'll shut this up. There is another way you can do this, and essentially it can make a very rapidly firing dispenser. I haven't used this myself, but it's doable, and if you want to kill someone extremely quickly, then you can make this, which, if you make another clock and attach that to the repeater, and now if you attach them both, it will make it fire quickly. Essentially. Hopefully you get what that means. Obviously you'll need to restock the dispensers quite rapidly if you do that. I'll just get rid of this, because we don't need this. But a dispenser will accept 4 inputs because it has 4 sides, like every other block in Minecraft. Now, you may be wondering how this can be worked into a trap. Now, if I put a door here again, an iron door, and do that, there's a number of ways to do this, but probably the most effective way is by using a lever and putting that here, attaching some redstone to it. No, that needs to go up one. Attaching some redstone to the lever. So the lever is opening that door, and you then need an inverter around here. And now, because this has power, this is turning this off. So if I connect this to this bit of circuitry here, like that, essentially this is stopping the circuit going off. So if I connect this to that, this will not go off until I hit this lever. And I'm now getting shot at. And that's because the power is coming in here and turning this inverter off, which is turning this on. Now, this again is quite a stupid trap, because it needs to be done effectively to actually get some deaths out of it. A trap that I have implemented on my private server is by luring people into destroying a set of blocks, which in turn will knock a redstone torch off, and that will essentially do the same thing, like that. So imagine these are diamond blocks or something like that. The unaware noob player will come along and break the diamond blocks, and if that was connected, it will set off the dispenser. Obviously these dispensers won't be... I'll show you a real world example, it's probably a better idea. I'll just let it waste its arrows. There we go. Now I have ammo. You can tell that by the clicking, which will probably make people go insane. So, essentially, you have this. No, we don't. Here we do. Alright. There we go. Obviously, this will all be hidden, but for testing purposes. See, the power is now off. You're not getting annoyed by the clicking now. But if you go in and break these blocks, there you go. Now, this can be linked to a rapid firing dispenser, which, if placed on a long corridor, will effectively kill pretty much anyone that comes near it. So it's quite useful. Now, another way you can use a dispenser is by linking it to a pressure plate again, but in a different way. And this is essentially a pitfall trap. Now hopefully I get the distances right on this. Just imagine this is a lot deeper. So this is the pressure plate and it's wired to the dispenser. Let's put the eggs in there again. And if you run across... Why did that push me? Okay, it's not pushing me. That's annoying. Let's try it with snowballs. Essentially, what this should do... Okay, it's not shooting me in there. But essentially what it does, if it worked properly, it would... The egg or snowball will hit you and it will knock you into there. Now, that's essentially enough with the dispensers. Let's just fill this area in. There's zombies down there. That's probably where the cave is. Now, you can also use this as landmines or TNT. Essentially, I think. Yeah. You can make landmines like this. Let's give myself some TNT. There we go. You put a block on that. Be careful not to right click the TNT. And you then need a pressure plate. And that happens. Now, if you had a long area of this, it would be much more devastating, obviously. There was coal there, okay. But essentially that's what you can make landmines out of. And you can also use TNT in the same way by just making it wired. So if I make a stairway out of here, and just do this, and it's now wired up. So as soon as you apply power to this, it will set off the TNT. Now, depending on how you want to do this, well, as I said, your imagination is key to this. But essentially that's what happens. I'm nearly dead now. Okay. No. Pork chop. There we go, pork chops. Okay, I'm back to full health. So, a real world example. Running along a corridor, you would hit a pressure plate and maybe a TNT a couple of blocks in front of you. You'd have to time it right. You'd have to kind of figure out how long it would take from one person to get from the pressure plate to the TNT. But essentially you can kill a lot of people with it. There is a lot of other stuff to do with this. I'm just checking them out now. Because you can't remember them all. You can use an escapable door room. That's quite obvious how to make it. You would have a room like this and a pressure plate. A door would be here, and you'd walk in, and now you can't get out. Then you could add lots of little nasty stuff in there, like lava falling from the ceiling and stuff like that. You can have roof TNT, which is essentially the same as a landmine but reversed. There's the drowning room, which I'm just looking how to make it. Okay. Essentially that's making an airlock. People would break some sand, which would release water, and they would drown. There is lots and lots of stuff, more than I have discussed. You can make monster traps and lots of other stuff like that. But essentially this tutorial will give you the basics of how to use redstone, and hopefully it has helped a couple of people out. If you want any specific tutorials on how to do something, then feel free to message me or leave a comment on this video. But until then, goodbye.